Well, everyone, you're watching AMN English. This is our program, weekly review program. As usual, we're going to see some of the past week's stories that we covered in our media channels, and we will just see broadly some of the selected stories. Stay with us. Well, with the review programs, I'm Jonas Asres, joined by Gemechsa Mandita, my colleague here. So I would like to invite you again to stay with us with our programs. Gemechsa, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jonas.
So as usual, let me read some just stories that we just covered in our media, just as a highlight. The first one is, you remember that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed received Mohamed Al-Yusuf, the Foreign Minister of Djibouti. So the Foreign Minister of Djibouti just came to Ethiopia, and Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed received the minister. So the minister came bearing a message from President Omar Guelleh of Djibouti. The message was to the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. So it is such kind of exchanges are vital to further boost the cooperation of the two countries and to further foster mutual understanding and collaboration on bilateral and regional matters of shared interest of the two countries. As you know, the two countries have just a lot in common. They are not only neighboring countries, but also they are linked with just socially, politically, and economically, and they are also linked with other sectors. So the visit of foreign ministers of Djibouti to Ethiopia and bearing a message from President of Djibouti to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is just said vital for further boosting the cooperation of the two countries. The second one is it's about national dialogue. A Russian ambassador to Ethiopia, Evgeny Trahon, and Armenian ambassador Sahak Sargishan have expressed their hope. That is about the Ethiopian national dialogue. Their hope is that the ongoing national dialogue would enable Ethiopia to ensure sustainable peace, and they also affirmed their support for the consultations. So the ambassadors had expressed this on the ongoing national dialogue process of Ethiopia. You remember that last week in Addis Ababa, the National Dialogue Commission embarked on just selecting agendas that can be discussed, that can be tabled for the general consultations. So the Ambassador Trahon stressed on the occasion the significance of the Ethiopia's inclusive national dialogue to maintain long-lasting peace in the country, and also it addresses various grievances in the nations. All the concerned bodies, according to him, need to therefore engage in the national dialogue so that the outcome would ensure sustainable peace across the country. You know, the ultimate goal of the national dialogue is just bringing sustainable peace in the countries and avoiding grievances in the country, just to create cohesion, to create unity among all ethnic series, among all the people of Ethiopia. The Armenian ambassador on his part also appreciated these efforts, Ethiopia's efforts to solve the national issues through the national dialogue process. The third one is about the agricultural transformation of Ethiopia. Director General of the Ethiopian Agricultural Transformation Institute, Dr. Mandefro Nuguse, said Ethiopia is ramping up efforts to build an economy resilient to climate change impacts, stressing that the momentum must be sustained to succeed in this endeavor. ENA was hosting a national panel discussion under the title Green Development for Sustainable Prosperity. The panel discussion was held in the city of Dredwa. So government officials, representative and various organizations working on climate change and green development, as well as academic institutions from different colleges and universities and invited guests were in attendance at the panel discussions that focused on topics such as impacts of climate change as a current global situation. Sustainable development is crucial for developing countries like Ethiopia. So Ethiopia's experience, particularly in green development and the role of the media in addressing climate change, is very vital. So during the panel discussion, Director General of the Ethiopian Agricultural Transformation Institute said Ethiopia is undertaking a coordinating strategy to build a climate resilient green economy development. So these three stories are the ones that I have selected to highlight.
Jonas, you have said a lot about the previous issues you mentioned, and before I just go to the corridor development, I would like to say a few things about them. The first thing that you mentioned was the Ethio-Djibouti relation. Djibouti is, of course, our neighboring country, but more importantly, it has a special place in terms of relationship between Ethiopia and any other neighboring country. You know that our import-export market is it passes through Djibouti, and anything that happens in Djibouti affects us. And of course, anything that happens in Ethiopia affects Djibouti. So these two countries have had a strong economic, political, and cultural relations since quite a long time ago. And especially Djibouti is very much, delicately affected by anything, that happens in the Horn of Africa. For example, Ethiopia is seeking, a kind of freedom in terms of having access to the sea, and it has been, dealing with Somaliland in order to ensure that, and that conversation between the Ethiopian government and the Somaliland government is really getting better and better on a daily basis, and Djibouti is likely to be, in some way affected, and so Ethiopia and Djibouti must make sure that
positively affected.
Yeah, positively, yeah. So anything that happens between Ethiopia and Somaliland affects Djibouti's relations with Ethiopia, and Djibouti has to make sure that, whatever happens between the two countries, Somaliland and Ethiopia, is not affecting it. And of course, the Ethiopian government has been insisting that whatever is happening between Ethiopia and Somaliland does not affect, the relation of Ethiopia with Djibouti. And I think, this recent message from Djiboutian president to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed involves, making, the relationship, between the two countries progressive and better. And so they are working together in order to ensure that whatever happens, between Ethiopia and any other neighboring country in the Horn really goes, positively with Djibouti as well. That's one thing that I wanted to add. Mm-hmm. And the national dialogue has always been, progressive. It was initiated, a couple of years ago, before, it reached Addis Ababa, the capital, where members of the community and stakeholders, are supposed to elect, their representatives, to enhance, just the issues of the national dialogue. So it is something, just that continues and that has been adding from what was going on so far in the country with regard to, this dialogue for reconciliation, because our country in recent years, has entertained, a war that devastated, its everything, its economy, its people, and people make sure that, they need to do something about it. So everyone is, coming to the table through their representatives and setting agenda, identifying agenda, and electing, just proper people, just to deal with it. So that has been going on for the last months, for the last years, and it has reached a stage where it is getting better and better, the process I mean, and it is involving just more people into this dialogue, into reconciliation. So that's a very good thing. As you also mentioned, Addis Ababa, for instance, has been, taking measures to deal with, climate in such a way that, we become, for instance, productive in terms of agriculture, even though it is a small scale.
Yeah,
it is
urban
likely,
agriculture.
urban agriculture. So in some blocks in Addis Ababa have been identified to be, good models for green development. One good example is, the Good Shola area. The blocks there are really, just involving, just green development in their areas, and some of them are doing, this urban agriculture where they manage, to cultivate, gardens, products from the garden, such as, vegetables. And also they are making, just their environment neat and clean.
Let's go to the corridor development project.
Exactly.
Let me start by just amplifying the positive impacts of the corridor development project.
Yeah.
The first one is just to ease transportation in the capital, Addis Ababa. That is not the only one. That's just I'm just going to list out the positive things that the corridor development would have at the end of the completion of all these corridor projects underway in the capital, Addis Ababa. The transportation system, just it used to have kind of traditional systems in the capital, Addis Ababa, the transportation system. So the pedestrian roads a little bit narrower, and even the vehicle roads in the capital city are not roads that fit the number of vehicles in the city, and even the junctions, the roundabouts, and other things that are supposed to be installed at alongside the roads are not that much just modernized. So this corridor development is meant to change this. So after the completion of the corridor development, the transportation system will be completely changed. That means the flow of transportation will be easier. The second one is it eases the business operations in the city. Sometimes you may have been witnessed just seeing vendors sitting on the alongside of the pedestrian ways. So they completely block the way, the pedestrian way. So the pedestrians are just forced to use the asphalt, the vehicles roads, because the government has opted to widen the pedestrian roads. These kind of things will be just completely avoided. So and also the informal businesses will be just avoided. Only the formal businesses will be there. And the other one is it will create jobs. It has already created more than 15,000 of jobs, the corridor development in the capital, Addis Ababa. And permanent jobs, it will create thousands of jobs after the completion of this. The good thing about the corridor development is it is just being built in a way that fits the standard, in a way that fits the modern cities across the globe. So that fits the standard of the city that we want, that is supposed to be Addis Ababa, as you know, the city of a lot of diplomatic missions, and it's the seat of the African Union headquarters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I want to add to what you say, which is, the government's commitment, to change Addis Ababa for its best. Prime Minister Abiy, when he gave, a speech regarding this corridor development, he stressed that the government is committed to make Addis Ababa one of the best cities, maybe the best African city. And if there is, any other city, to be better than it, will be maybe Cape Town. And when he said this, he knows, we all understand that it's a long way to go, but through time, this corridor development will make, other places which have not developed yet really come to the standard. Now, a very good foundation is being laid right now through this corridor development project, and it is changing, everything, the landscape of Addis Ababa, and it starts from the center. And one best thing about it is that, it makes it introduces, a new standard to the city. Go to Piazza, and we used to have, substandard houses, shabby houses. These houses have been, removed, and they are being, replaced by new, modern, and standardized, houses and facilities. One best thing about it is that we'll have, everything that is standardized, and everything will be, in system. I mean, we'll have a system for everything around us. As you said earlier, people will have, new jobs. And even the Prime Minister, when he spoke of, building a new city in Addis Ababa, which requires, investments in billions, okay? That new city, you don't invest it only. Rather, you generate income from it. And this corridor development will do that, okay? Food vendors, for example, as you mentioned earlier, food vendors, will be here and there. They will provide, good services, standardized, clean services to the people, and they still will generate, income from that. And also other places which have not been developed yet will take, this particular project, a model, and then, they will use it, to transform their areas, their surroundings. It could be in Addis Ababa, it could be out of Addis Ababa. So in general, the government is determined, to change Addis Ababa, and we have seen all these changes, in a speed of light. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. Just the next morning, you see around you, you come up with, a new outcome of, this corridor development project.
Yeah, it's being done according to its schedules.
Yes.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, as you remember, 4 days ago, along with First Lady Zinashanyacho and with other high-ranking government officials, just inaugurated the completion of the first corridor that lies from Arat Kilo to Piazza.
Yes.
So, just generally in Addis Ababa, the capital, there are 5 selected corridor projects right now underway. So, one of the projects from Arat Kilo to Piazza has already been inaugurated, and the Prime Minister and Mayor of Addis Ababa, Mayor Adanesh Abebe, just inaugurated it. So, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed announced the inauguration and expressed optimism about the rest of the corridor developments to be completed on their schedules. You know that Ethiopia is endowed with natural resources, and it has also a great deal of human power. So using these resources, using its potential of its people is up to Ethiopia, and it's up to Ethiopians. That's why Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has just given emphasis on using resources that we have. And one of the mechanisms, the ways to use our resources is we need to save it. So we don't have to exploit it.
ያየነው ነገር በጣም ተስፋ ሰጪ ነው። መቀጠል አለበት። ገና ጅምር ነው። ብዙ ስራ ይጠበቅብናል።
What we have seen is promising. However, we need to keep going on. There is a lot to be done yet. We've done what we planned before through months. what I'd like to tell is that we must utilize our resources wisely. Our investment must be in our own country. It shows hope in the heart of the citizens when we save our resource and invest in such projects. We also need to be creative and quick. The country has not been built yet. The other important thing we need to have is cooperation. It hasn't been easy to rebuild this area. Without the cooperation and support of the residents, we wouldn't have completed the project in time.
የሆነ ሀብት ነው ያለን በአፍሪካ በታሪኳ ልክ ውበቷ ተገልጦ የሚታይ ሀገር እስከምት
We would not cease our efforts to rebuild Ethiopia unless it becomes a country whose beauty can be seen in its history in Africa. The young ones are just taking such experiences. We will continue to do that. We thank the support from the residents. However, we are not satisfied. We shouldn't be. We are just starting. We use this accomplishment as a springboard to our next projects.
እንደ ጅማሮ ብቻ ወስደን የሚቀጥለውን ስራ በሚቀጥለው ጊዜ
The other one is Deputy Prime Minister Temesgen Trona. He also talked about the corridor development. He just said that about the changes that the corridor development has brought to the city of Addis Ababa. If you have ever just gone round Piazza and Arat Kilo, you may feel that you are in other cities that you have never been to. So it's completely will change the appearance of the capital Addis Ababa. And also it is implemented in a coordinated manner. Not only the government, not only the city administration are doing this, but also the residents, the private sectors, and other sort of the society.
የመጣን ቢሆንም ግን አጠቃላይ ከቅዳችን አኳያ በጣም እየፈጠኑ የተሰሩ መሆኑን አይተናል። ለምሳሌ አድዋ አካባቢ ያለውን
We have seen that the project is progressing well. Piazza, for instance, seems it has been completely changed with another place. The corridor development has walkways and residents are taking time enjoying it. The buildings have also been graced with aesthetics. All these changes are the result of efforts to transform Addis Ababa.
ከዚህ በፊት እንደምናስታውሰው ክቡር ጠቅላይ ሚኒስትር አዲስ አበባን እንደ ስሙ አዲስ አበባ እናደርጋለን የሚል
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on the other day promised to make Addis Ababa flower as its name. It is not about planting flowers, it's about cleaning the city, greening the city, and rebuilding the infrastructure. The works are not being done only by the government, but the private sector's individuals also take initiations to rebuild and renovate buildings, engage in other developmental activities.
Mayor Adanich Abe has also stressed how the people who are involved there have been doing just their best on the corridor development. It is about the culture of 24/7, just working 24/7, 7 weeks and 24 hours. So this culture is being just developed in connection with the corridor development. The other one is, I have already said that individuals, investors and city residents have just supported the corridor projects in Addis Ababa. That's why this result has come to the city Addis Ababa.
በርካታ የከተማችን ነዋሪዎች ህንጻቸውን አድሰዋል። መፍረስ ያለበትን
A lot of residents have been cooperating with us in the development of the project. They have renovated their buildings. We just gave them the design and they have done it by themselves happily. They were serving the site works with food and drink. They opened their houses for them. They really makes us serve our people happily and in extra commitment.
Anything to add or
Yes, I just would like to say maybe it's the next thing we talk about, which is collaboration of the government and the private sector in order to reach the needy with their needs and their wants in some cases. The city administration has been building houses for the poor, for the needy, especially those people who need to be leaving their places for the corridor development project. When these people just leave these places which they inhabited for quite too long, then the government understands, it needs to do something about it. In this case, to maintain the safety of the citizens, and by providing them, just with housing units, the city administration ensures that, people do not get harm. That the number of people, who need these housing units are high, and the government, even though puts efforts into building, such houses, they still need, some kind of assistance from the private sector. And City Mayor Addis Ababa has always been telling all of us, the public, that support should be provided to the government. The government cannot provide everything by its own, so people should come together. Companies, institutions, the private sectors, from the private sector should come together and support the needy by providing, for instance, housing units. So these collaborations are appreciated by the city administration, and they have been really doing a great job in this regard.
That's great. Let's go to the second one. I think we're running out of time. So it's about the diplomatic activities of Ethiopia. This week is a week that the Foreign Affairs Ministry of Ethiopia has hosted number of head of missions and envoys from the various countries. For example, Austrian, UK, Finland, Greece, and other countries. Head of missions and envoys went to the Foreign Affairs of Ministry, and Ambassador Misganu Argas, State Minister of the Ministry, just welcomed and discussed with these heads of missions and envoys of the countries about the bilateral and multilateral and regional issues. So these diplomatic activities, this kind of exchanges of diplomats between Ethiopia and the respective countries is very vital for Ethiopia to further strengthen its ties with the rest of the continent, with the rest of the world. But also, it's most importantly, it showed that how the country has been progressing in terms of its diplomacy. Do you know Ethiopia in terms of just integrating with its neighboring countries? It has built roads, it has built railways, and also it has just been just doing great in terms of connecting the Eastern African countries with electricity. So what Ethiopia has been doing in terms of integration in the continent Africa, and what Ethiopia has been doing in terms of enhancing cooperation of itself with the rest of the continent, and the cooperation of the continent with the rest of the world, is something vital for the people and for the development, for the prosperity of Ethiopia and also the continent. The other one is it's about BRICS meetings. The foreign ministers of countries from BRICS nations just convened in Nizhny Novgorod. It is a city in Russia. They just discussed multilaterals, bilaterals, and other issues. Taye Asqassalassy, foreign minister of Ethiopia, emphasized its role in the BRICS bloc, and also transnational issues, he said, cannot be addressed by a single institution, by a single country. Rather, it just requires the coordination, the collective measures of different institutions and different countries towards achieving that interest of all the countries. So this is what we have today. So let's wrap up. That's it for now from AMN English. This was our program, Weekly Review. I'm Jonas Asras, joined by Gamechisa Mendida. Until we meet you next week with other hosts, have a good day.